Hi, everybody. I'm so excited that you're here for Charlie. Uh, you are one of the most special students I've ever had. So I'm just really excited to ask you some questions.
I'm excited to answer your questions.
Okay, super. Um, and I want to contextualize a little bit in that Charlie took multiple of my classes, and I also collected these three huge monotypes, water-based monotypes that have since been shown at the VAC and at shed shows. And so if I refer to those, that's what I mean as far as like the prints that I have when we talk about contextualizing the imagery or some of the questions that I might have about your practice. And so I wanted to let y'all know that's what I'm talking about. But the title of the show is called Flat Earth. And for me, immediately I think of the conspiracy theories and the belief that space agencies and scientists are hiding the true shape of the Earth to exert some sort of control. So for me, why this title and how does that relate to your work?
Yeah, I mean, I do love titling. I'm like, this. I do enjoy like a title, and this was like a title I kind of threw away at some point. It was like a throw, like maybe one of them was going to be named that, and then I was thinking about it really like all of the work is a lot of ways about like my entering into what I guess would be like adulthood or like a new form of life without like the structure of like family or school in this case. And it was kind of like reinventing my own, like how I thought about the world and like how I kind of imagined things operated from like the most basic things I like money to like sex and all these things like you don't really, that you just kind of have to form your own ideas about as you go along. And then yeah, it kind of was like my own kind of conspiratorial thinking about how I like thought systems that I was a part of or things I witnessed in New York kind of worked out. So I thought that was kind of like apropos for the name. And then I do like that like a flat earther is like, it's so stupid, but it's fun that like it's been kind of dignified. But like, I mean, like science communities talk about it. Like it is kind of given some sort of like reverence and culture. So I thought it was a fun way to combine them. And then also like materials like earth, clay, like they are like flat images. And then really like the ethos of the work in a lot of ways was like, I do want to see everything on like a flat plane. Like I want to be like, the guiding thing is like, I want to be able to see everything happening at once at all times, like every single detail, every single like movement, all in the same kind of like non-linear sort of timeline. So I think like that actual image of a flattened earth was really like made sense for this work.
Yeah, but these are very much also not flat. You're not actually giving us that.
Like,
you might want to see that, but then we know something's happening over here that we can't quite see.
Yeah, and it's playing with the curves and stuff, but it's not. I'm not fully like they're not sculptural in that sense, where I'm not like. I mean, there's a couple carving elements in some of them, but other than that,
yeah, that makes sense. So I've always seen your work as based in storytelling and animation. When you were an undergrad, you were also RTF major, which is radio, television, film, and you did, even in our classes, animations, and you were in documentary film for a while. And so, the monotypes for me unfolded like chapters with a beginning, a middle of the story, and an end. And then we're kind of talking about that round form and that circular, but and it's a story that changes and repeats as we move or as it moves around. But could you talk about the subject matter, the protagonists, like how you think about reading this work?
Yeah, I mean the subject matter, like I guess like worlds they all exist in, which is like it's somewhat of like a shared ecosystem. Like I think there's a lot of like similar characters or things that are happening in all of them. That was like a lot of in school, like thinking about, like I was playing out with like biblical stories and like an apocalypse narrative and like what is left over after all of there's no longer a focus on like goodness and like there's no fear of God anymore. Like what is the world post that, and like a full hedonistic kind of like thing of like these systems do have to like continue to operate, like, and things do have to keep going, and like when all the resources are exhausted, and like things will still be around, and like how do those things continue to function. So that's kind of like the basis of I would say, the worlds they live in. Like it's very like, I mean, it's obviously very tongue in cheek, but they're like drinking their own pee and like all and like living off kind of the most like derelict resources we would have. And then it was always really, really like an important thing to walk around them. That was kind of like always the like the way I would think about like, okay, I'm going to start, this is the image, I'm kind of like, this will start something, and then I know I'll find my way to the end at some point. And then that end is kind of, I mean, that's maybe an end to me, but in many ways I try to make them so it's like, it always, you can just keep going around, and it's not like, this is the beginning, this is the end.
Right.
But yeah, and then like characters of them, I mean, it is all my life. It's all like about my life. Like it is kind of very much like, you know, you are a like person, and you're the stuff like, I'm so beholden to all these systems and these things that I'm like a young person existing in the world, like trying to go to somewhere beyond where I want to be. Like, I mean, even from an earlier stance, like growing up in the South, wanting to like move out of these things, and you create these like narratives around like what is beyond the thing that I am, and then ultimately it's a thing where like wherever I go, there I am, and I can't really escape the self, and it's kind of like these characters moving. I mean, there usually is a central kind of character. Like I would say, like this guy is probably like would be the character of this piece, and then I try to obviously have like an ecosystem of different people like doing different things and like really fill out the world. But yeah, it's a lot. It's like somebody starting in like a really like monotonous kind of like no agency place, and kind of having somewhat of an awakening, and then, you know, in a very cynical sense, there's the end of that is usually like you might get to that point of the greener pasture, or like, you know, like a heaven's gate or something, but then you do have your physical body, like like you're still left with like a tattered kind of like all the effects of all the mistakes and all the choices that you made. So it's a lot about choices. Like I think like right now I'm in a point of life where like my choices are purely my own. Like I'm not reporting to anyone. I'm not like, there's no like, no one's watching me. Only I will know if I make the right choice at some point. But it's a very exciting time, but it's also like obviously a very scary time. So I think it's trying to like figure that stuff out through kind of these things. And then all the places are like based on like kind of like people I know, or groups, communities that I'm a part of or want to be a part of, or things I witness.
Yeah. I wonder if that shift and move to New York, and the systems and the buildings and these structures and this density, do you think that also the fact that you're making these really large objects in a space that it feels like something to carry resources, like that it's plentiful, even if it's all piss, right? Like a whole jug of it. You know, what is that relationship to where you made those things? Like,
yeah,
it feels like,
I mean, I think it was a major disillusionment, like moving to a city that like is only promised like the American, like these dreams, and like especially in like the digital age of like you just see things like, oh, I will it'll be so easy to become a part of this like world of what it is. And then yeah, I mean, I've entered like, I mean, to a lot of them are like about like, for example, the first one I started with this like soap factory, which is really like I got this job that was like quote unquote like a good job out of school, but then I would just like, it was work from home, and I was like alone in my apartment with no window, just kind of like, this is the worst thing. That's like, and I had no like, I had so much free time because I mean obviously I didn't really have to work, honestly. There was no, I didn't, but I had no.
Did you say a soap factory?
No, I didn't work at a soap factory, okay. but then the kind of the like the effect of that is kind of like, okay, I have nothing to do, so I'm just like scrolling my phone, and I don't know how familiar you are with like these like weird videos of people just soap cutting, like these kind of like monotonous, and I was kind of fascinated, like where are these people, like what like basement are they making? Yeah, like where are these people? And yeah, and it was like a period of like no agency, like no, like in New York is this place where it's like, and I think a lot anywhere you are at this time of your life is like this thing where it's like I can scream and no one can hear me, and that's the scariest thing in the world. But also like I can scream and no one can hear me, and that's like a very freeing, exciting sort of revelation. And I think it's like about like yeah, like I don't know, I wasn't that like doing that in New York, and then New York is gross. I mean, there was like it was very like apt for like there's so many rats in these. I think that was probably like something that was born of like walking down a random crosswalk and just like hundreds of rats. But which is great. It's beautiful. Makes the city what it is. But
oh, I see them here.
Yeah, like, yes, and like they're all over this thing, and like and and then it's like imagining like like the powers that be that control the city. Like in this, I'm like making these rats like the ones that are like the control, like they're in the underground systems, like controlling the actual like resource of these people. But it is this thing, and like I would say that the largest kind of like story that can kind of contextualize the feeling was like you get there, you walk around, and like you just see like young people hanging out at like masses of them hanging out at like coffee shops that turn into wine bars, that turn into art galleries that are like so cool. And there's just like, I'm like, how do all these people know each other? Like, how did they all arrive here? And like, how are they all like in such perfect kind of like community? And it was just like mirror to myself, like, where am I versus this, and what is that, and like, how does one get to that? And then when you're in that, what is that? And then a continuation of like, eventually it's like you want to get to something beyond, but there's I don't know what that is.
Yeah, and that feels almost we were talking. You mentioned the religious ascension. No.
Yeah.
It seems some of that is also it's strange that it's also aspirational.
Yeah. They're like one. It's like
cult circles.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that was so much of like. I mean, I grew up in like going to like a church, and like not in a scary way, in a way that's like normal and like fine, but and I was like always so wondering, like, it is, if you take all the kind of like modern things away from it, we are just like praying to the sun right now, like we're just like screaming at the sun, like begging something to happen. So it was this like mass kind of community of people wanting so desperately to be acknowledged, or like to have something come from of an above sense that like can like catapult you into like whatever like that is, whether you want to like feel like good in yourself, or like just move somewhere beyond, the feeling of like wanting to like move beyond self, which is impossible.
That you're stuck in
that. It's always and then I feel like that is like my own life, and that's like the things. But then when I kind of bring it into here, it is I do have a bit of like creative like liberty to like make a lot of like fun choices that are not necessarily like, they're not, I'm not like relating in the exact sense, but it's it's taking a lot of liberties, and like I don't know, like imagining like these places on their worst day. Like this one especially is like, I was like, okay, I have these ideas and I've made this like world, and then like what would this place look like on its worst possible day, and like if everything went wrong, and then like and then it's a lot of like everything is connected, and like trying to figure out like what went wrong here so that this happened. It's all like causation kind of.
And then you have structures weaving them together. It feels like you have these braids and cords and things that are wrapped tightly, kind of like a boa constrictor or something, which also feels like everything's held together in an order of sorts. And then you titled that print knitting. I wonder if you could like walk us through a story on how you think about, I don't know, about those ties or those ropes that hold everything together.
I mean, well, it started with these eyes. Like there's a lot of like eyes that like are, the basis was these eyes like jutted out, and then like it was able to kind of like allow me to start a character in one place, and then this eye would like lead it to the end of its thing. So it was a good way to like move a story along without like repeating an image a bunch of times, and like it all still being one singular image, but by way of like a long arm or like an extended hair braid or something, you could like walk through and see where that thing would end up. And then, I mean, from a drawing point of like these braids or these like appendages and things that come off, it was like, it's like a lot of like games and pattern making. Like Dan, actually, another professor at UT, I remember you once saying like you play a lot of games and painting, and like, and it's just like kind of like, I do try to make these kind of like math games of like perfect order and kind of like perfect symmetry in these places. So I use those, and then I do kind of operate from like a more is more is more is more is more, and so it is kind of like, wouldn't it be great if the snot was coming out and then it was perfectly aligning with this thing? It's like, and then it does kind of further this idea of like, there is some order and like some sort of like thing beyond in this,
and a symmetry.
Symmetry is like a very important part of it all. But that's like,
which means like it's all working like it's supposed to.
No,
you don't need to really worry so hard that you're being pumped.
It is like some
extruded.
It's like a chaotic world, but there's some perfection to it all. And then and then like there is like a lot of like tight kind of like choking and like, I don't know, like kind of like pressure. I think that's a lot of the feeling is like this like real like pressure in these things, and there's like a lot of like weight, I mean, to these like little characters' lives, I guess. And it's a lot of, I mean, it's like devastation, like it's but
all right, what else have I got? Okay, so you're also using a form that has been used for centuries all over the world, not only for utilitarian purposes, but then also to tell stories. Are you looking at ceramic vessels? Do you look at artifacts? Do you look at, are those interesting to you? Also, like how we're thinking about the decorative or the adornment or patterning, like you were saying. I'm wondering.
I mean,
what you like
I couldn't say like this is an amphora and I know exactly what amphora meant in whatever time period it was made. But I mean, the classical shapes are always these like elegant, symmetrical shapes that are like, and when they're made in their like most classical sense, it's like this perfect kind of shape. And then these, I would imagine at whatever time those are made, it's probably like some amount of throwing involved, or like, and these are all hand built, so it's like a trying really hard to like make this kind of perfect form in an imperfect way, which would be like, it is made by my hand, and it is like, I can't make it absolutely kind of perfect. But I don't really like beyond kind of like, I mean, honestly, sometimes I'm just like Googling like Greek faces, and then, but I think, I don't know, the classical like kind of form is something you see constantly. I mean, especially like for like potters, like so many people are making the exact same kind of like form, and then you kind of get lost in like, there's glazes and stuff, but it's not like, there's no differentiating those things. So I do like kind of like taking these classical things and really applying something that's like, this can only be, the drawing is like separates it from being just like a random perfect vase. So it is kind of like subverting and like those things. But also, I mean, some of them are so like delicate, like to be able to, so I think it plays well with like, if I was making sculpture, for example, like really bulbous kind of crazy things, it would be too much. It would be like crazy, it'd be overwhelming. So it's like,
there's
obviously like there's a limit to certain,
the moreness?
There's like, it has to be something that like, is this great thing where it's like, I think that, for example, like my boyfriend, like his sister, who's like a normal woman who lives in like the Northeast and like has children, and she like was like, these are so amazing, so beautiful, and then it's like she had never like zoomed in before, and then she's like, she's like, this is crazy. And so I do think it's like accessible. Like I think that like that is the main point of thinking in these. It's like I want them, the way they're made is really accessible. Like I'm not using anything crazy. Like I want them to be like approachable and not intimidating in a material sense, I guess.
That makes a lot of sense. But there's also something. But I think you're weaving those two things together, that like beauty and chaos and the symmetry and destruction. But there is that immediate association, at least for me, that these feel that they are large and they are very breakable, and you're not quite sure what to put in them.
And I know you're talking about putting flowers on this. I was like, well, that'd be fun.
I think that because you're leaning into something that it's approachable as a surface, and you have this, as you're saying, you want people to approach and look closely and spend time with it. That I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And then always the question is like, what's happening in your brain as you're moving through this? You said you start with a section, you have a beginning.
Yeah.
But is it something that you're making sketches for, or you have like a story you're telling yourself, or a moment, or a feeling, or a memory, or something that's becoming that's going on as you go into this? You keep on saying soap factory one.
Oh, that, yeah.
Which one?
The one with the lid, or the small lid, not the egg.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm like when I but sorry about.
Well, it's just like I'm just curious about that world building of it. If I can put them all in that same world, or if you feel like there's separate or distinct lives of these spaces.
Yeah, I couldn't say there's like a perfect process every time, but there is like very much like a building process, and there's like a painting process. So like I do kind of like, sometimes it'll be in tandem with an idea, or like I'll know, like for example, the one that's really tall, I knew that I wanted that one to be like the piece itself was like a character, like it was like I wanted to build like a neck, and I knew that the kind of eyes would be going to the top. So certain ones are made, I guess, more or less around a drawing or an idea, but like I'll go through a period where I'll like build shapes that I'm interested in. Like I knew I wanted to make the round one. That was when that was one of the later ones I made, and I was like very interested in like a moon jar, which is like a very like kind of like, you have to be like a master to do it on the wheel, like to make like a large one. So I was like, okay, well, I cannot do that. But so I was like challenging myself to make kind of like more ambitious forms with them. But then the draw, like, I don't think there's, in my mind, that I know that I'll be able to figure it out, like when it gets to that point. And then it's like, they take so long. So it's like, they're already this like really precious kind of like thing. And I really like, I would say I'm trying to approach art in a non-precious way. I think we would both agree at that. And then like, so it is, I want to remain the element of like unpreciousness, which is like, I know I have a kind of an idea of what's going to happen. Let's like have this. I know I'm going to like start on a side, and then I have this like central image. Like, I mean, we keep talking about soap factory, but there's this like kind of ladder, and like that was like, okay, I know this is kind of like what it is, and then it's like a figuring out like, okay, what can go around, like what's next, and then I don't always they're not that planned out. Like they're really, I'll do a lot of painting on them with it, like when they go to first, it's just like a black brush. So that's like what I guess would be like a more drawing portion of it. And I'll have a sketchbook. I'll start with like a lot of words. Like I'll word bubble and like just try to connect to a lot of different ideas and like whatever the thing I'm thinking about at the time. And then once I kind of have like, okay, this is kind of the story, like I'll script it out sometimes, almost like this kind of story I'm trying to tell. And then I have like I'm able to draw like a scene, like a rough kind of thing in the sketchbook. And then I'm like, okay, I can kind of like spatially, I know where things are, and then I'm gonna like put it on there. And then it's a lot of erasing. Like I'll do something and I'm like, oh, I could make this better, or I could add like more snot or something. Like there's room to maximize this. And so and then it kind of fills itself out. I really try not to do like a filler. Like I'm never trying to like put something in there that isn't something that makes sense in the world. Like the world, I imagine, does have like quote unquote rules. I would like they can't fly. I don't know, I just made that up, but but like there are certain like rules of things. So I'm trying to abide by these like kind of rules I've created, and not like just put some random thing in there for no reason. Sometimes I'll put like a fun like kind of like nod to some piece of like culture or something. There's like vapes in them, which was like I felt like a calling card of certain like people I knew. But I think that it is really organic in that like I'll usually know like what I'm trying to say, and I'll know like, okay, this is like what this character or what this thing is like trying to do, and then it's like okay, well, let me like, I have to figure out like what all the places that they were to get to here. Like I mean, if you look at like the words and stuff, it's truly like, it's like a serial killer wrote that. It's insane, but it needs to make sense to me. Otherwise it's like, what is this thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, like in the prints that I have, you know, there's that autobiographical-ish story that I know you were relating to here, and then it's like you as sort of a green monster.
Oh yeah, that was.
Yeah. That is very specific to your time as an undergrad, and that time in your life. And I still see some of the green monster there. And these characters, like the fleshless mouths, and like the hair being pulled, and this. I finally saw Beetlejuice the other day. Like, and that. Yeah. So I wonder, like, that it feels like this is you, but also bigger than you, this like imaginative space. But you know, how does it feel? Yeah, does this feel like part of the inside of you, or your private thinkings or goings on, or like how much to divulge, how much to keep close in some of these, because some of them could also be very like private situations that you've got. I don't know. I'm curious about how you feel about.
I mean, I'd say first. I mean, I have all of those like feelings of my own, but I have no expectation or like intention for people to be like, I understood exactly what you meant. Like there's no way possible that would ever come across. But I mean, what was the first part?
I don't know. But I just like how much is you, and how much does that feel comfortable in you?
Well, I mean, like from a process place, it is so much private time. Like it is so much like and I can't really like listen to music when I'm like doing the drawing. So it is really like a focused in kind of like, I am just like in my own head, and kind of in certain ones maybe in like a darker way that was reflected through these. But I think it's like you can hear a pin drop. But I think they are in a lot of ways, like I think what you're talking about, the older works, like that really was like about like explicitly specific situations in my life. But now it's kind of like they're more like feelings that I'm thinking, or like groups that I'm observing or that I'm a part of. Never like punching down, always like things that I'm like aspiring to be, or like things that I witness. But I mean, a lot of them are like, they're like about like embarrassing kind of like private things necessarily, but nothing like crazy, but like just things that I probably wouldn't tell my mom about. But
or you would.
Maybe I would. I mean, some of this is like about her, but and also they're not really ever like about like one, since they take so long, and it's like so much doing it on the thing. It's like there's like a feeling that's like that maybe I'm thinking about, and then it's like all these different places in my life where I relate to this thing. But I think I go into it like thinking I'm like the character that it started with is kind of like how I'm feeling, but I do try to like put them in a place. It's like it's like playing out like the worst possible things that happen. It's like it's like if the worst thing happened, like what would happen. But I think I've kind of come more to a place where like, since I'm aware of it all, like I'm like more of like an omnipotent character in them, and they're kind of like, it's like playing the characters themselves are like more like they're like, it's more like group. There's it's not always like one specific thing, but I don't know, it's difficult to say these I mean, they are, I don't know, I mean, I don't ever have the opportunity to like, no one said like, what exactly is this about? And when they are, I'm like, okay, like it's like some random woman who's walking by the studio, and I'm like, I'm not gonna tell us something right now. She's amazing, and there she is. But I have no issue like discussing, like I don't have any like caginess around like what exactly this means, but Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, if you have
yeah.
any questions about what they mean, I'll happily answer.
Yeah, it almost makes me feel like you're making these. This is really going to be a depressing comment, but it in a way you're making these worlds that are way shittier than your depressing soap watching room with no windows.
Yeah.
Which is really, but then you have lightness and rainbows in them. Anyways, that's
No, I mean,
where am I going?
Oh, well, don't
But
worry.
yeah,
no.
and how long am I
I
supposed
don't know.
to talk for,
Everyone feeling
Kevin?
good?
And then okay, so I don't. In that, I guess that question then for me is when you're thinking about, I've also seen things that I'm not sure how related they are, but I think it's still interesting to think about. The movement in the animations that you do in this like repeatedness where they get big and they expand out of the mouth and their head and it goes blah, and then it forms into something else. It feels very much like it's circular in that same way that you're thinking in a way that
it's like and releasing and then just like a constant kind of thing of that.
And then they have a similar energy in animation too.
Yeah, and I think
I mean I think that there's like in it feels well. Tell me what you think about this, and as far as like one of the questions here is about like humor or being funny and these darker themes throughout it, like I don't know if I really have there's like such an enjoyment visually to them and like a sincere love and care and happiness and exuberance while also dystopian and hedonistic, as you were saying. So and I kind of know the answer to this question, but I you know it's but like those feelings and emotions and the emoting that we get as viewers or that you get as a maker of it in that space, are they funny to you? Are they they're very dark and we should feel bad about laughing, like when we see somebody trip or something, like that sort of weird space where like or
I mean, I think from like
are there any
of like a way that I'll think about that is like, I mean, firstly, like I think it's a safe way to express like your most like insane thoughts, desires, etc. It's a very like safe place to put those in, which is a lot. Is by doing that you realize like the comedy of like these things, and then I do think also on the same note of like where I exist in the time of my life, like you do make like insane choices that are like in like people have to be like, you should make a lot of mistakes, and it's like, yeah, but when you do those, it's like so hilarious the outcome of like what you're left with. I mean, find yourself like the end of like a kind of risky choice or something. You're like, it's funny. I mean, it's like I feel like in many ways like you like kind of narrowly avoid like death in a lot of ways, like living as a young person. And it's just like funny the reflection on that, and like it's funny. I mean, I'm not like most things are like you can find a humor in everything. But yeah, they're definitely like comedy and humor is a big like force in them. They're not. I would hate if it was like I was up here being like so serious about it. Like and I'm not like making work about like really serious like big things. It's all kind of safely contextualized into like my own experiences and like again like not punching down. But yeah, I do think that like them being funny and like colorful especially and like fun is like a really great point of entry and is also it's not, like it's enjoying, like I find enjoyment in the process of doing that, and then like it is, and it's a great place to like put like, I mean, especially like being at the place of where you're just kind of observer of life and you just witness these things and you make like funny comments like this kind of, I mean, I love that we're just like kind of like discussing just this one, but this kind of image is just like this character's like head going into its own ass, and it's like this, and then getting eventually covered by like a pair of jeans, which is like me thinking about how all these people had like their heads up their own asses in like the biggest way, like these like quote unquote like cool kids, and I was like, this is like so funny, like how like vapid and stupid this all is. But yeah, I do. Yeah, it's all like from a funny place, and I think like it being removed from reality is like allows for it to be like to see like these like characters covered in like dirt and shit, to like, it's, if they die, it's not like really sad. It's kind of like you can laugh about that.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just this. I think there's a. I'm taking enough away from our own world that it's like you can laugh about devastation.
Yeah.
Because it's not our world.
Yes. Totally. Are we opening up to questions? That's a good transition.
Okay, cool.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Is that anything else? Yeah. Okay. Yes. Of course. Yes.
Okay, so the vessels in the drawing are so intertwined, but I'm curious if for some reason you couldn't make the raw, and then I look at it and I think the ceramics are what make it's what makes it so subversive, is using those vessels to make those drawings. And I thought, well, maybe he's doing the drawings on the ceramics because it's that much harder. But if somehow somebody took the ceramics away,
I mean, I'd probably go to print. I'd probably go to drawing is like, I mean, they came out of a place of like, I was drawing a lot of like what would be considered at the time like doodles and just a kind of like teenage angst drawings, and a teacher at one time was like, you could heighten these things by putting them on a more like regarded thing. So I think, you know, I do think that you lose something, like there's something lost in maybe them just being drawings. I don't know if they would carry, I don't know if it would carry the same effect. I do think that it's really important that they're on these like regarded kind of forms and these very recognizable kind of like, especially in like a fine art context of it is a subversive like tactic, I would say.
And then also, I mean, just from seeing you make for multiple years, I also had Charlie through the COVID time, and so it was one of those things where we were in the space that like for printmaking, I was so depressed after March, like that we had to stop, that I continued to teach in person by making these really large, small classes, and everybody wore masks. So we were kind of all in there in this like insane life that we experienced together. I don't even know where. But so I got to really see Charlie working, and in a way that you are so generative. Like images and experiences just come out of you in a way that like that's how you listen, that's how you process things, are through images. And so like seeing all those drawings are amazing, but in a way I think you also build this whole archive of things that it isn't enough to just have one of them. You want it to the more is more of like all the parts, all the bits, all the good, all the bad, like stuff it in. And you wanted to express it all and include it all and have it in there. So I think also that these forms that take a lot more time or are more laborious seem to be a way for you to really like because you're so generative and you make so many images and works, to really be also particular about that story
definitely.
that you're telling.
Yeah, it does allow me to like really commit to something.
Yeah.
And then I think like what you're saying, like drawings is nice, that like when I was doing a lot of like more like prints or drawings, they were really like scenes. They weren't really like an entire, it was hard to make like an entire kind of landscape in that. But I did find that like these, I could bring in a lot of drawings that were maybe around a similar idea. And this like let me make something that essentially was like a canvas that never ended and was like always alive in some capacity. But yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Now I'm asking the questions instead of people. Yes.
did you ever think of something around this Garden of
Yeah.
Earthly Delights? Because that kind of
debauchery.
well,
There you go.
also
Yeah.
sort of proselytizing in a way, you know, a sermon in a way.
Mm.
When I look at that,
Mhm.
I feel like the artist is trying to lead me to conclusion about how I should behave. Or do you ever want to try and
That's a good
stamp
question.
that in a way?
Hmm.
I would say that maybe it's almost a reaction to that being so proselytized in like the world that we are in, or like like in ways that I've been before, or ways that like feeling so like people with like a myopic sense of the world really like pushing an agenda on you, and these are kind of a maybe more of a reaction to wanting to like live in a world where we're just like buck wild, like there's no sort of like, this is like kind of a, if anything, I'm like trying to proselytize like the opposite effect of that, of like we, a world can exist in like a hedonistic kind of godless manner. But yeah, I think I wouldn't, that's a good question about like if I'm trying to talk about like people's behavior in a sense. But I don't know. I don't think about that much in my own person. Like I try not to have like a judgment on like people, how they would live their lives. But yeah, I think maybe especially since all these characters are like breaking some sort of order, it's like about like an awakening in like contrast to some like factory or like order, some like more rote system, and it's about like kind of people escaping that rote system. So I think maybe that way it's more about kind of like breaking free of the chain of whatever that.
More reactionary.
Yeah.
Than trying to impose.
Totally. But Bosch, I mean, Horace Bosch is like, yeah, that's like, I mean, that definitely is a big part of like this.
This sort of relates to what you just asked, and you know, Veronica Bosch. But I think the visual rhetoric in this work relates to an earlier medieval illumination kind of graphic, flat, primarily storytelling modality, and I think the visual rhetoric of it actually recalls that kind of sermon.
Yeah.
Way. It's super interesting, and I think that's one of the things that's both disturbing and thrilling about them, right? Is that you're using a vocabulary.
No, totally.
That doesn't belong with your hedonism in a way.
Yeah, and I think like medieval is a great like reference point, because there were just like no rules, and like but like masses amounts of people would just like die of famine, and it would just be like
no space, flatness.
Yes, limited resources.
Pattern and decoration being primary.
Yeah, I do. A lot of I do look at a lot of like Book of Hours or like things like that. Yeah.
You were all, you know, as a student, you were always very proactive about sources, which make me wonder too about like whether the choices you make are sort of internally driven or driven by just what thrills you in the world.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, it's a balance between like I don't want to play too much into popular culture just because then it really cements them in a place and time, and then it's really like it also it gets to a point of like I'm already kind of like they're cartoonish and but when you add in too much kind of like things of our time, I think it kind of puts them in a less like regarded space. It kind of
like self-referential.
Yeah, it's a little like too kind of like of the time, a little like kitsch more than. But I do think there are like really funny like again like calling cards of the current time of where I'm at, like a vape or like these just kind of like I do play with like wanting to incorporate like popular culture or like cultural elements or things into them, but but yeah, I think it's a balance of like not going too overboard with like what's happening right now in the world. Or
Yeah.
yeah. Hi.
This has been such a fun conversation, and I have like a lot of questions
Okay.
that I would want to ask. But I guess I want to start by talking about going back to your title, Flat Earth. And one of the things that I love about these pieces, I love about seeing ceramics in museums, they force us to see a world that doesn't revolve around us. Like it's a story you have to read by moving your body around something. So then the object sort of dominates the narrative. And I'm like really entranced by these pieces and that like flat earth, that shifting of a narrative such that the human perspective isn't the singular one. I also love the vapes, the like way that you're telling a story, maybe like these like Greek objects that we'll see tell a story that's very specific about a time. And I love imagining that like those artists or maybe the Egyptian also drawing the equivalent to like the vape.
No, I completely agree.
Looking at it like,
Yeah.
wow, like,
Yeah.
that was amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you for like tapping into that history.
The history of the vape.
So this conversation also, I'm a new faculty member in French,
yeah,
so I wish I would have overlapped with you. But this conversation has touched on French, and I look at these objects and see them as like, these are some fancy ass objects. Like these are in fancy homes, or like there's a really specific context in there, like very elite. And I'm wondering, I guess it's like a question of, is there a wrong context for them? And or do you still make prints and see your work is important as something to distribute? Like, is it important that these are seen by a lot of people? Prints, you know, can be seen by tons of people. Whereas something like this, it's so precious. I can't even believe Kevin let me move it without security guards or like, I don't know.
I know. I drove these across the country actually, so yeah.
I love it. But yeah, they seem so precious to me, whereas prints I love to think of as like something
Fast. Yeah. I mean, I think that is like a question that like in terms of the context of these, like I not many, I mean, I don't know many people who own these yet, or like I haven't been experienced like a wrong context necessarily. I mean, it would you know, it's like to sell someone or have someone who's just horrible own one, but yeah, I would agree that like it is a difficult idea to like where would this thing live in terms of like how we function in the world. But no, I mean, I don't know the answer really to like in terms of the wrong context of these things. I mean, right now I feel like it's a correct context because obviously they're on pedestals and you kind of do imagine them sitting on some sort of pedestal, but you know, they haven't lived out in the world beyond myself or here in any sort of way really. So I haven't had the thought yet of like something being inherently wrong or feeling of that. But I do agree with like print is so like, it's so quick, it's so fast, you can generate so many, and I don't like print isn't something that I've like kind of stopped doing because I'm like, oh, I'm moving away from print. It's just like I happen to choose the two things where you need like a massive piece of machinery to do them. And so yeah, print is something that like I still think about a lot, and I still want to like be able to move back into that a bit. But yeah, I don't know. Did I answer a question?
No, I think I was just curious about audience.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a question.
I think it's something that's like, it's happening right now.
We're also talking about that one question that I asked that you were like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about like what happens in
Yeah.
space with
I
that,
mean, yeah, so like,
which
I
is
mean,
really interesting.
the first time they were like, the opening is the first time I've ever seen them all in the same room, and B, like ever seen some more than like two people at a time, like observing them. So it's really like, I mean, it is like, again, it's such this private like thing that I make them, and like the process is what I would consider like the most important part of it, and like I enjoy it so much. So the actual like kind of like them being out there is it's strange, it's nice. I mean, I haven't heard anyone say anything terrible about them, but you know, it is funny seeing them in a place where you really are constricted to like they can't move, because when I'm making them, I'm like all constantly like putting them up or lifting and like getting the smallest detail on the bottom, and like like,
Yeah.
I mean, flipping them around and like getting every sort of thing. So when they're in such a rigid, I mean, this is like, that's just the nature of like a gallery, not specific to here, but when they're somewhere where you can't, it's not natural to like kind of like get down and look at everything. That's something that I wish was more normal to do that. But that's the only thing that I would say, like, I don't know if people are getting the fullness of them.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I mean, I do think that I've seen the walking around. I do think that I do think that it comes across and like, but yeah, I think, it's something that's like I'm witnessing in real time.
But then also something you said, Paloma, that I think is interesting is that yes, they are like elite, but then there's still also like a pejoratized craft history of ceramics, right? That have just recently made a resurgence.
I know, like it's been making resurgence for like 10 years, yeah.
So I think I think there's like multi-layers there in like the sort of mark that you make, the shape that they are, the fact that like the histories that you're leaning into. Anyways.
Yeah, and I think it's specific. Like there's
Dan's like, nah.
So I do have a question for you. So you're looking at these particular forms, and like pottery are telling us about their day, right?
Yeah.
People that are going to party, they have musical instruments, they have wine, they're on chases, they're laying around, right? Things like that. And the clay becomes a canvas, right? That becomes circular. And so the vessel itself we talk about in terms of the body, so like the foot, the shoulders, the neck. Right?
Yeah.
And the expansiveness of it, like it's holding space itself, even if nothing is filling it. So I'm kind of curious about how you decide to things that are closed versus here where it's open. This easily turns into like June Kaneko if you just close off that top.
Yeah.
We don't have access to the inside. We have to imagine and wonder. But here, you've given us access to the inside, so there is evidence of process.
Yes, yeah.
And then we see the process, and then you've left it fairly, you see your like marks of moving. So can you talk a little bit about the idea of using the vessel as canvas, using the vessel as like this ode to these historical forms, and then why or how do you consider showing process within the work? You can easily smooth all those things out.
Yeah.
You don't see them.
Yeah.
So
It brings up a good point. But I mean, firstly, like I think in the way like maybe this one wasn't the way the drawings were in tandem with I'm playing with this openness because like I want to just open this and I wanted like lead. A lot of times you want to like lead up or like you want to use the curvature or like an opening to really like with the drawing. So that is like I think more so the vessels inform the drawings. It's like where I'm a specific curve is where I'm gonna like really zoom into something, or like it allows for like a perspective shift or like a real like fisheye kind of look. But then in terms of like being able to see inside, that was something that maybe when I was first making them it was just happenstance, just was like I was unconsidered. But now I do think that it is an important part of them, that like it reflects also, I think some people who are maybe from more of a art or ceramics context would assume like a wheel, they're built on a wheel, or they're built in like a thing where it would never make an indentation or anything. So I think it reveals process, and also like kind of I think it like makes them a little less of this like elitist kind of thing. They're more like it puts them really in the context of like someone made this by hand, and it's like there's like fragile edges and things, and I do think the inside functions kind of like it's its own like reminder or own like kind of like memory of the building of it, because when you look at them head on, you're not able to see like how it was constructed. But I do I enjoy that it's a thing that's happened. It's not something that I necessarily went into it being like it's really important that I don't smooth these things. But I agree that I like that it's able to be seen in that way. And then and then you're able to like look inside of it and get the full extent of the thing. And I think again it makes them like less like precious, and it kind of, I want to remove as much of that like formalness is to them as possible. Obviously, they will always be a formal object. But then in terms of like the Greek, you mentioned like showing their days. I think like I've tried to do that by way of like these worlds, these images are happening over the course of a day. Like it's all one timeline. It's not necessarily, again, it is a reflection of like their world in the same way that these ones you're talking about are like showing all the different people like doing their different things. So yeah, I do try to like show the entirety of this world in the way that like if it was a relic from the past or something, it could be an indicator of what this place would have functioned like.
Lots of vapes.
Yeah. Had to answer the question. We wait 10 more minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Like, I feel like I said everything I need.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming. This is like so nice. Yeah.